Hey, welcome to Photo4me TV, episode 16. Today we are talking about being able to see what pictures customers are looking for in real time. And stay tuned to the end for an artist interview with Paul Andrews. Cool, okay. So, thank you very much for joining us. You may notice that I'm not in the bar today. It is a little bit chilly even for me. So, today's questions for artists is, what is the most exciting thing you've discovered about your art whilst creating collections? Comment on your answers below. If you are enjoying the weekly updates and artist podcast, drop a like, hit the subscribe button, and click the notification bell to stay up to date with the latest changes to your platform. Okay, and introducing the team, I'm Mark, I'm responsible for member success. We've got Dan, who takes care of social media, and we've got Mike, who runs the day-to-day operations.
Howdy.
Cool. So, first-time sellers straight in this week. We have got Christine Willis, Neil Parker, Andrea Obzerova, North Wales, Geraint Tellum, Stephen Hamer, and Jonathan Aloia. And the top 5 sellers for the past 7 days. We have got Jay Biggerdike, Paul Andrews, Jerry Greer, Martin Williams, and Darren Galpin. So, Dan, what's going on in the social media corner?
Lovely. So for the editor's choices this week, we have Brian Pearce with Evening at St Ives, Cornwall, Aviation Prince with Spitfires in Flight, Kevin Britland with St Michael's Mount Cornwall, John Ealing with Rising Light, and Sandy Cocaine Dalescapes with Mist Rolling over Ingleborough. And the top 5 searches of the past 7 days from the time of the recording, we have Algarve at number 1, Scotland at number 2, Palenza at number 3, Spitfire at number 4, and Guernsey at number 5. And as always, guys, if you do have any images with those search terms, go out there and start creating collections around those. So last week, the new real-time searches tool went live, and the response to this tool has been incredible. For those who are unaware, on the member site today, the real-time searches tool is now available site-wide. So you can see what customers want and how they search for your art across the member site. Again, helping to improve your workflow and give you access to that information whenever you need it. For those of you who are still unfamiliar with how the tool works, Mike will show you a bit more about that in his section. And like all platform updates, we wanted to give you access to this tool as soon as possible so that you can benefit from it sooner, and we will improve it over time. We're excited to say that soon one of those improvements is going to be the ability to see exactly what images customers are looking at in real time. So not only will you be able to see what words customers are searching for, you'll also be able to see exactly what products they engage with. So that's really exciting stuff. So as we start to introduce live data to you guys, we really want to make something clear, and it's really important for you guys to understand where strange search results or behavior in that data might come from. Strange search terms such as URLs, strings of numbers, or unrelated terms showing up in those results can be caused by bots. Now, these bots are the types of things that search engines like Google and Bing use to create their search index, and they essentially crawl our website on their behalf. There are many types of these bots, and we are working to remove them from the search results to make the search results as accurate as possible. So if you see anything strange, don't be alarmed, because this is normal internet behavior and we are on top of it. There's also one other large improvement to the real-time searches that Mike will be telling you about shortly. So plenty of stuff going on with your platform. And Mark, how are we bringing that into the magazine?
So, yeah, based on the popular searches, the Yorkshire Dales has featured quite heavily in the last week or so. So, in response to this, we've created an article which is now live on the magazine and features work by the following artists. So, we've got Gary Sanford, David Sidgens, Pete Collins, Sandy Cocaine, Andrew Hudson, Graham Moore, Steve Glover, Heidi Stewart, and Philip Chalk. So, yeah, get over to the magazine and check them out. We will continue to monitor the popular searches and on a regular basis curate and create articles in the magazine which feature your work. And this goes on, and as this goes on, we will be letting you know directly so that you can share those articles on social media as part of your own personal marketing. If you have an idea for a feature or a story that you think will be worth including in the magazine, please let us know by sending an email with the magazine in the title to customer care at Photo4me, or you can message us on Facebook. So, Mike, what have you got for us?
Well, as we've pre-alluded just a few minutes ago, it was all about keywords and the live search term. So allow me to share my screen very quickly. So here we are on the collections creator, and what we have here is different colors. Now the colors represent different buying indicators. So the pink in this instance means that this is decided if a customer has visited 3 pages or more with that specific search term. Blue means that the customer is very interested, and there's been 2 visits with that search term, and white is just interested. There's just been 1 page visited with that search term. All right, so now we have what is missing. So what's missing in the market? Where is this gap in the market? So we're actually going to add this new feature in the coming days where it's going to be black, which is another buying indicator. And that's where it's going to be where there isn't a lot of pictures. So there is an opportunity for you, if you have pictures of that specific search term, you say, hey, I'm going to upload those pictures because there's my gap in the market. So it's going to help you, hopefully improve your chances of selling. Now, don't be discouraged if you add the pictures onto your portfolio. So don't feel like you've missed the boat if somebody doesn't go by and purchases a picture right away, because our data shows us that it can take up to about 4 days for a customer to make a buying decision. Sometimes they go do it right away, but sometimes it takes a few more days and beyond. So don't get discouraged. That means if you see a great opportunity to fill that gap with your products, just make sure you go out and do it. The last thing I want to point out is it just really gets into the psyche of the buyer. So we can see that these search terms, people are specifically looking for specific images. They're not looking for a beach or sand. So that you can really start to get into the mind of the customer. This is what they're looking for. So you can hopefully get into the idea of what good search terms look like and what bad search terms or keywords look like. So just keep that in mind. Use this as a tool to also get better at working on your keywords on every other picture that you have. And just, as I say, get into the mind of the customer. And that's it from me this week. And see you all next week.
Thanks, Mike, for your update. That's brilliant. Dan, is it time to introduce a guest?
Right, so this week we are joined by Photo4me artist Paul Andrews. Paul was born and bred in Sheffield and now lives on the edge of the Peak District. And with that, his portfolio speaks for itself. He was a top seller on the website this week, so we're really looking forward to getting him in and speaking to him. Let's give Paul a warm welcome. Much for joining us, Paul. How are you doing today? You all right?
I'm all right. Just come back for me hour's walk.
Lovely.
I'm fine now.
Yeah, I'm sure you got a beautiful place to walk if you're on the edge of the Peak District.
Well, it's more in not the town centre of Sheffield, but in the suburbs. But there's a few bits of woodland and stuff, so it's all right.
Oh, lovely. Well, before we kick off, for the people watching who aren't familiar with your work, why don't you tell us a bit about your background in photography, how you got into it, and how you ended up talking to us here today?
Okay. I got into it through walking for the last sort of 20 years, obviously living on the edge of the Peak District, do quite a bit of walking. And then when I was 50, I decided to do Himalayan base camp, Everest base camp walk. So I thought, while I was doing that, I bought myself a DSLR and a kit lens. Didn't really know what I was doing, if I'm honest. But I managed to get a few half decent shots of Everest and Aberdablem and some of the other sort of mountains. So when I came back from that, I'd also been doing are you aware of what the Wainwrights in Lake District?
Yeah.
100 and odd whatever hills stroke mountains. Last 7 years I've been dashing up to Lake District at every opportunity, walking them. Taking my camera sometimes, on some of the big ones, not taking my camera. And then I finished them a couple of years ago. And that's when sort of my passion for landscape photography started to take over a bit. And I'm now doing probably as much photography as I am walking. Also, a couple of years ago, I traded my camera in and I bought a full frame camera with 3 or 4 different lenses. Yeah, that's how I come to it basically.
Lovely. It's a good thing your existing hobby sort of goes hand in hand with the photography, eh?
Yeah.
So, but before we ask about the 3 images you've chose to share with us, I don't know if you're aware of this. You're actually a top seller on the site this week.
I did it. I think like everybody else, since about October, since you guys have been doing all the work, I've sold loads more pictures than I had in the previous 2 years, probably.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I think I sold 6. It's sort of a member of the family and a couple of friends have all bought some. So it sort of pushed me up to like about 10 for the month, which is by far the most I've ever sold in a month. And I did notice actually on the old page that I'd sort of made it for the first time into the top sellers, which were nice.
No, that's amazing. It's a massive congratulations and
cheers.
Were you promoting it amongst your friends and family that your portfolio, or was it just they just liked your pictures and they just did it?
Everybody in the family is sort of aware that I take photographs, some more than others. And there was a company on Facebook were doing a promotion thing. So I basically I took the promotion and it cost me 30 odd quid and I had a really professional sort of book made. And that's sort of gone round the family a little bit. And I think people sort of, on the back of that, people pick some that's in the book. And then obviously I've sort of said you can have a look at the site, or I took my computer and they picked some off there. And my auntie and a couple of friends sort of bought some, and other members of the family.
Oh, cool.
That's great. Well, regardless if it's your friends or family or not, it goes to show that, being that slightly bit more active and being more engaged with sharing your work can have, such amazing results.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I love that book idea. I think that's a really cool little tidbit to take away from this. I think,
Yeah, I think if I'd have paid the sort of like full price sort of thing for the book, it would have been like 140 quid or something.
Wow.
And I think it cost me £38 in the end. And I think it's some German company, and it's really, really top quality gear. It looks really, really nice.
Wow.
So obviously I've sort of shared that through family, and people have picked a few things out from there.
Yeah, that's amazing. You could almost carry that around with you, because the amount of strangers people bump into on walks. I mean, I know you can't really engage with people too much apparently, but
buy my picture.
Take the book from 2 meters away. Throw them the book.
I suppose though, if someone sees you out and about while you're taking photographs out, say for instance on the Peak District, and they, people do inquire, people do go, what you photographing and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I suppose you could, if you had the book, you could show them.
Yeah, it's a little bit heavy. It's bad enough carrying all.
Yeah,
all my camera back
we're not sure how big this book is yet.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So a new thing we've been doing with our podcast guests is we've been asking them to choose 3 images from their portfolio and tell us a little bit about the background of that photo, how they took the photo, anything they want to really. We'll kick off with one of your photos from Bowl Hill Quarry. I believe this is from the Woodland in the Peak District.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a bit about this image?
Woodland photography, it's notorious. It's quite difficult because there's a lot of sort of, if there's no fog there's a lot of sort of clutter and distractions, and you've got to sort of try and isolate the trees, and it can be quite difficult. But it's something that I've sort of been working on quite a lot this year. I really enjoy it, even though it's really, really frustrating. It's quite hard to sort of, you think you can see what you want and you take it, and then when you get back home, it's like, well, maybe not. But you just have to keep going, keep plugging away at it. And Bowler Quarries, I don't know if you're familiar with the Peak District, is it Padley Gorge?
I've been up there once or twice.
It's a really famous area in the Peak District. And it's like, it's a picnicking area. And there's a river runs down, and there's lots of trees and all that sort of stuff. And that is really, really popular with families and with photographers. So if you go down there on a sort of a foggy or misty morning, you're falling over each other to try and get the best compositions.
All fighting for the best shot.
I put them up on the site, but it's probably something that I'm never going to sell, because for somebody to get that emotional attachment that most people need, usually people will buy something, it might be in Whitby or the Lake District or the Peak District or wherever, but just a tree in a woodland, I'm taking them for me more than I'm sort of, I take all my photos for me, but I know the odds of me selling something like that is very, very small. But that's the sort of photography that I enjoy the most, and that's where I take them and I just put them up anyway.
That's it. Well, you just never know, because we have the space on the servers to hold it. So might as well. You just never know.
Yeah, I have sold a few pictures with trees on, but they tend to be sort of like a famous tree at Buttermere, which obviously a lot of walkers will sort of find an attachment with. And I think I recently sold one in down in Wales. But obviously, the one that you're talking about is just a tree. And if you don't read the caption, you would have no idea where it was.
Yeah, and I think that's I think that's the best bit of advice we could also give just on that note. You know, like we understand that photographers like to take abstract work and stuff, and the reason why we talk about location so much is because customers are still interested in abstract photos. But if you upload a photo that is called Tree 1, you know, Tree 2, the chances of them finding that amongst the search is really low. So regardless if they're like, oh my God, that set of trees is exactly what I want, by including the location in that abstract piece, it helps pull buyers into it. And some of them will be more interested in abstract shots. And it just so happens they like Bowl Hill Quarry at the same time. So there is definitely room for that.
Definitely got to get them keywords in. Paddle Gold, Bowl Hill Quarry, Peak District.
We've said enough about keywords.
Oh, don't worry. Don't worry. There's more to come.
So what? I noticed you got like a really lovely mist going on in the background. Is that part of the natural tool for composition you use to try and isolate some of the subjects?
Yeah. It makes it a lot easier if you've got mist with woodland photography, because of the chaos that you've got a lot of stuff in the background that you necessarily don't really want, and it just softens everything up and just makes it sort of more pleasing to the eye. And you can isolate maybe one tree or two or three or whatever, and it just makes it a lot easier. And they tend to not need a lot of processing when there's the fog. I think that particular one, I think it's just had a few Lightroom adjustments, not much at all, but it has been split toned as well, which sort of makes the shadows a bit bluer and the highlights a bit sort of warmer. But you can do anything you want with it, but I think that's happened to that particular shot. Yeah,
lovely. I mean, it's come out really nice. What time of day was that?
It's morning, sometime in morning. That was one of them days where you were literally falling over each other down in Padley Gorge and in Bucks. It's not very big Bowl Hill Quarry. There's quite a lot of silver birch trees around, but obviously you're looking for a composition, and then you've got a photographer walking in the background and one coming here and one coming from the other way. Everyone's saying good morning, mate, and just sort of trying to get on with your work.
It's like borderline horror film with the mist.
Yeah, I think it was the end of the autumn, maybe late October, November of last year that's just gone by, just before we went into another lockdown.
Yeah.
Don't mention the words lockdown. I mean, someone like yourself is probably quite fortunate because you're able to travel, I mean, relatively reasonable distance to get to these locations. Have you been doing more woodland photography during the lockdown at all?
I've tried locally around where I live. There's not a lot of woodlands around, but you've got to do it with it's just so much easier with a mist. And if there isn't mist, I won't even bother trying to do it. It's really, really hard. But I've been looking after my grandson in lockdown as well. So the last 3 or 4 months, I've not done much at all with my camera since about around the time where I took that. I've just not had the opportunity to get out. But when we hopefully when we get out of the lockdown, I'm lucky enough. I've got a caravan in the Peak District as well, in Oak Valley.
Lovely.
So I can get to some locations in 10 minutes in the car. So that makes it, if I go from home, it's still not far. It's only half an hour, maybe 35 minutes. But from where my caravan is, I can get to certain locations in like 10 minutes. So I can have that little bit extra in bed, which is always nice.
Yeah, that's what you need if you're getting up there. So beautiful image. We got your second image here, and I'm known for butchering pronunciations on this podcast. Is it Higator?
Yes.
Higator.
Higator, yeah. Exactly right, yeah.
Hey, little
Yeah.
Dapper Dan there getting it right.
Again, it's a beautiful shot. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about this? It is absolutely gorgeous.
Igator is also quite famous for photographers. There's loads of little different compositions. That particular one's not one that's been done a lot. There's one just to the side of that that's called the Kit Kat stones on Igator, which is really famous. I've got a couple of that. But this particular one, the reason I think why I put it in, I went back so many times to try and get it. And what caught me, the frozen puddle at the bottom, it looks like a dinosaur's eye. That's sort of what attracted me to it. And I've been to it when it's been liquid, trying to get reflections in it. And it's just never, it's either been no clouds whatsoever or completely full of clouds and all grey. And you just keep going back. And this particular morning, it all just sort of hung together. It was frozen, nice clouds, lovely sunrise. And I suppose the sort of story behind that one is just keep plugging away, just keep going back. You have to persevere. You're not going to go and just get it the first time, or you may do on the odd occasion, but not very often. So you just have to keep going back. And eventually,
it's kind of like a repeated theme.
What you sort of have like a preconceived idea of what you're sort of hoping for, and that's sort of eventually it was somewhere near what I'd sort of imagined. On me, whatever it were, 30th maybe attempt to sort of get what I wanted.
How long does it take then, as you know, if you're going to make that trip up there? What's the sort of time that it takes to actually reach that point?
From the roadside, it's 7 minutes maybe. It's not a long walk. Yeah, it's not a long walk. From home, it's sort of maybe about half an hour in the car, plus the sort of like 7 minutes. So it's even that. I mean, it's not a long journey even when I'm going from home.
Okay, well, that's good. That says nice, easy. When you say you've got to go there 30 times, I mean, you know, if it's that close to you, I suppose it's not that much of a chore. If you were going to tell me it was a 5-hour hike each way, you know, then
yeah, perhaps wouldn't have persevered so much if it been a 5-hour hike. Yeah, I'd given up at 3.
Yeah, but it's sort of like a recurring theme that with every podcast member that we have or guest we have, they always say it's all about perseverance with photography. It doesn't naturally happen. You know, you get that shot on the first try. It's going back over and over and over again because you have that picture in your mind's eye, and that's what you want to achieve. So it's just all about just putting the hard graft in at the beginning, doing the preparation, and then just working at it until you finally get it. So yeah, it's just interesting that everybody says the same thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a game of patience. If you haven't got much patience, then maybe don't bother. Look for something different out there.
How much sort of preparation normally goes into one of these shots when you know exactly what you want? We've had various photographers say they look for specific sunrise, sunsets, times of the day of the year and stuff like that. How far into it do you go to make sure you get the right capture?
I do a lot of my scouting when I'm out walking, and I'll just take sort of a basic shot or something that I think might look all right with my camera, my camera on my phone, and sort of have a look at it when I get back home and think, oh yeah, that might work. And then obviously I'll return with all my big camera, as it were, and give it a go. So that's how I mainly do things. I just sort of scout out compositions. Obviously, like everybody else, look at what other photographers are taking. Check different areas out, and that's basically it. To me, I don't do a lot of this, like going on Google Maps and sun will come over hill at that time and blah blah. I don't get into all that sort of stuff, not yet. Anyway, I might do in the future, but as yet, no, I don't do all that.
So perseverance, but not nothing too over the top.
No, and I don't do a lot of photography in the summer. I go out at evening sometimes, but light's always a bit harsh unless you're getting up at like 4 o'clock in the morning in the summer for the sun. I'll do it occasionally, but not very often because I do work as well. So obviously at the weekend, you don't always want to be getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday when you've been at work all week. So it sort of tends to sort of slow down a little bit through the summer. And then I'll pick it up again a little bit later in the year.
Oh, that's great. So, your third image is a sort of a bittersweet taste on this one because of lockdown. I'll let you pronounce this one, but it is from Florence. I can see here in your notes. The Ponte Vecchio, there we go. I see in your notes you had to set a 4 a.m. alarm on your 50th birthday. Yeah, go ahead and tell us about how unhappy your wife was.
Yeah, well, when I did the Himalayan base camp thing, I went on my own. That was for my 50th birthday as well. So together we went to Florence and Rome. So we did 3 or 4 days in Florence, 3 or 4 days in Rome. And we've been sort of walking around Florence, and I've been taking a few snaps with my camera. This is right at the beginning when I just had the one lens. But it was so busy, it was almost impossible to get anything half decent. I mean, we got to the Ponte Vecchio, and there were literally thousands of people on it, thousands, because it's like one of the most famous bridges in the world, I would imagine. So I was trying to get a few, and I was just, I'm wasting my time here. So I sort of decided it were only sort of like a 10, 15 minute walk from the hotel. And I thought, if I want to get something, I won't have to get up at stupid o'clock. So I set the alarm for 4 o'clock, whatever it were, managed to get myself down there, got all set up, and this road sweeper guy kept coming past on his little machine thing. So I was having to pick my tripod up and move out in his way, and then come back and try and get set back up again. So it was a bit of a performance, but in the end, I sort of got something that I was quite happy with. I was sort of wanting to hang about till the sun came up and sort of get a few more shots, but it was just starting to get sort of like a little bit busier then. So I just sort of had to take what I'd got. And when I come home and processed it, I was sort of like quite happy with it in the end. So I think I'd underexposed it a bit. So on the back of the camera, I thought, well, it looks all right. But then when I got it home in Lightroom and I lifted the shadows and bumped up the exposure a bit, it's come out quite all right.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, when I caught a glimpse of it earlier on, I initially I thought it was a painting.
Yeah, it does look a little bit like that. Yeah. I think in Photoshop you can do a thing what makes it look like an oil painting, and I think I have done that, and I think it is on Photo4me as well. They're both up there. Yeah. The photograph and the one that looks a little bit like an oil painting. And I think obviously at the time I thought I must have thought the same as you, and then sort of put that up, so they're both up there.
Yeah, no, I think it lends itself very well to that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I know, I like it because I've been to Florence and I've been on the bridge, and as you say, there's thousands and thousands of people, shoulder to shoulder, shimmying your way through. So I think it's an incredible perspective of just what it actually looks like, because I couldn't imagine it without the people. But then here we are, and it's a gorgeous picture. I really like it.
Yeah, the way the wooden shutters follow all the way down as far as you can see. If you're there as a tourist, you'd never even understand what that could look like.
In the daytime, originally they were all like butchered shots and stuff like that, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, but they're all now really fancy jewellers. So you go down and the shutters are open, it's Rolex watches, Cartier watches, and all fancy jewellery and all that sort of stuff. But obviously when it's shut up like it is now, and it could still be an old butcher's or whatever, couldn't it? That's the sort of look that it has.
That's how that feel.
Yeah, it does look like a sort of almost like back in time a little bit. Yeah. Really captured that. Lovely.
Yeah, I understand that cityscapes is something you're looking to grow in terms of your portfolio. So again, do you have anything noted down of where you're going to attack once lockdown's done?
Yeah, I work in Sheffield town centre, and there's quite a few nice buildings in Sheffield. I took a few bits around the train station that's quite nice. But it's definitely something that I've been sort of thinking of working on, and architecture in general. And also we went down to London a couple of years ago, and I spent almost a full day just continuously walking around the shore, taking hundreds of different photographs from an alley, from under a bridge, and my wife had just stood in the background tutting and shaking her head. And I must have spent like 5 hours just doing that, but I was determined to get a couple of shots that I were happy with. And so when I come home, I got quite a few that I was quite happy with. And it's just something different, because I'm a sort of like a walker. It's always sort of like countrysides or waterfalls or mountains. I've been up to the Isle of Skye and Lake District with my camera and stuff, and I just think that I need to just sort of like have a go at something a little bit different.
Yeah,
so I've sort of promised myself that I will do a bit more sort of cityscapes, architecture, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, sorry, Mark, I was just going to say, as soon as I clicked on your portfolio, I'm a big fan of the brutalist style social housing imagery. I love This Is England, those sorts of films. Is this something similar to what you're talking about earlier, where you're starting to upload your more personal work of what you're trying to capture?
Yeah. Are you on about the recent ones, the Park Hill Flats in Sheffield?
Park Hill Flats, the full frame.
I was born on there.
Ah, lovely.
I was born on there, and I lived on there till being 21. So obviously, it's got a big personal thing for me. And This Is England were filmed on there and all that sort of stuff. So it was only a month ago. I thought I'll go down in the car. I had a walk round, got my long lens out, and took a few snaps. And you can walk in and around little parts of it, sort of thing. And I've just put them on site. Same sort of thing. I never expected that I might sell one or whatever, but it's just something that's personal to me. And I went down there for like 2 or 3 hours and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I guess there are people who will find it personal to, you're not the only one to grow up there. So I should imagine there's people out there who probably, have memories like yourself who probably, would buy that image.
Yeah.
So,
I put a few of them up on Facebook as well, and I got sort of like quite a decent response from obviously people who I know that I'm friends with on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I'll have to put them up again and put the link on one next time.
Don't forget to make a collection.
Yeah. Well, I've got a few more to put up actually. That's why they haven't yet gone in the collection. I've got about another 15 to put up. So I'll probably put them in a collection on their own and maybe add them to the Sheffield one as well.
So have you got plans to drag the sainted Mrs. Andrews somewhere to take some photographs in the coming year? For her to stand around and watch you take photographs in another city somewhere?
Like sort of everybody else last year, we had a bit of a nightmare. All his holidays got cancelled. We were supposed to go back to the Isle of Skye again in October. That got cancelled. So I moved it to next week, February, for my birthday. It's my birthday next week. That's got cancelled again. So I've rebooked it again now for October later this year. So hopefully we should be all right. And my niece is getting married this year in Germany.
Right.
Wow.
Frankfurt, I think it is. So we're hoping to go there. And obviously I'll take my camera. I said to my wife, we'll perhaps stay out there and have a full week and maybe try and get somewhere near at mountains and stuff.
Yeah.
Do a bit of city stuff as well.
Cool.
So hopefully we'll be all right by then.
Well, we'll be tuned into your portfolio towards the end of the year then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a huge surge.
Caravan, hopefully in April, and I'll be wandering around the Peak District taking a few more photos as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah. We better prepare the servers for post lockdown because I think they're going to get bombarded with uploads.
Yeah.
So but before we wrap up, obviously you've already touched upon how you got into that top sellers list this week, but is there any other advice that you'd give to the Photo4me members watching about, any creative advice to stick through the lockdown or selling advice that you could give to them before you go?
I think photography wise, I think you've got to take photos that you feel passionate about, whether it's landscapes or cityscapes or whatever. If you're not passionate about it, I think it's just a lot harder to take a photograph if you're not really feeling it. I think, and persevere. You've got. For myself, I came in at a total beginner. I didn't have a clue what we're doing when I bought my camera. And then there's once you take photos, there's all the Lightroom thing. You've got to learn Lightroom and how to develop and all that sort of thing. So I think it's be patient, persevere, and just keep plugging away at it. I think that's probably the best advice I could give.
Lovely. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you, and we can't wait to see how your portfolio grows across the year. And it would be great to catch up with you again soon once this is all over and see how it's progressed.
Okay.
Lovely.
Yeah, great.
That's brilliant. Well, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you on the Facebook group and on the website.
Smashing. No, lovely to meet you.
Yeah, and cheers, guys. Thank you.
So, yeah, brilliant. Thanks for Paul for joining us. And this week we have covered real-time images and improvements to the real-time searches. Remember, if you want to get involved with the podcast, reach out to us on Facebook. And don't forget to like and subscribe and follow on social media at photo4me.com. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week for episode 17.